So my birthday falls on a Thursday, and we are celebrating on a Friday with one of my good girlfriends and colleague who is launching her maternal mental health book, coffee table book featuring Black moms and their story. And she featured my story of pregnancy loss, infertility, and finally being able to conceive and just a rough pregnancy, postpartum depression, all of it. So it's just like, oh, and my daughter's in it. We took pictures. Her name is Keisha Reeves. It's just the perfect way to spend my birthday with my family. So I'm so excited about it.
Well, that is big news. So congratulations on
Thank
all of
you.
that. So that must be so when this person included your story, how did you feel not only about what you went through, but that someone wanted to include it to share it with the rest of the world?
Yeah, I tell my story a lot because I want other women and birthing people and families to understand, especially Black women, um, Black birthing people, to know that they are not alone. And so I don't know that particular, it was interesting because I can tell my story and, I tell my story. But for some reason, I don't know, I think it's because she's a therapist. I was in there crying. I was boo-hooing. And I'm like, ooh, this was different. I've been on panels. I've been doing this for years. Yeah, it was different. I don't know. She asked some different questions. I think that's what it was. And it just evoked like, wow, like I really went through some stuff, you know? Um, and I'm here. And just how scary it was. I don't think I talk about the fear of it, I guess probably to protect other people. I do, but not in depth like how I did with her. Like the fear of having another loss. Pregnancy after loss is so hard. It's like you can't really enjoy the pregnancy because you know now what can happen. And at every milestone, you're like, okay, if I could just get to out of the first trimester, but then it's like, can I get out the second trimester? Can I get out the every step you think is going to be comforting? Well, for me, and it wasn't until I actually saw my daughter. And then I could breathe. Yeah.
So was the pregnancy then was this situation and your friend asking you, was that a reminder of the difficulties that you went through during your pregnancy and during that time in your life?
Yes. Yes. During the pregnancies, during my postpartum phase was very difficult. I was sad. I had postpartum depression, anxiety, OCD. So it's like I kind of felt robbed. It was like I finally get to have this baby, and then now I'm dealing with all of these symptoms, and I'm not really enjoying this either. It wasn't until like the fourth month that I finally was like, oh, okay, I think I like her. And then the guilt around, I did all of this to have this baby and I'm not enjoying this. Like, I just felt like it was so unfair, and you can't get that time back. And knowing that this is the last one, I wasn't able, everything that I had in me to go through fertility treatments to have my daughter, that was it. I couldn't do it again. Um, and so knowing this is the last time, and then it's kind of spotty, like I was there, but I wasn't really there. I was just surviving. So yeah, it's emotional. However, I do understand she will be 10 in April. I do understand, and I understood a couple of years after having her that everything I went through was to help someone else. And so I would have liked a different experience, but I wouldn't change it. Yeah.
So, do you think sometimes then birthing parents and parent and non-birthing parents, do you think that maybe they underestimate the impact that this can have on their life and maybe their relationships?
Absolutely. That is the number one feedback I get from my clients. Even when I try to prepare them as much as I can, oh, I'll be fine. I'm like, no, you won't. No, you won't. I'm telling you, you won't. And it's like, Tamara, you were right. Oh my gosh, I didn't have enough support. And that's the thing. You know, we kind of, not kind of, we live in a society that is very me, right? And I don't think I believe and I know that culturally, as you know, indigenous people, whether your people are from South Carolina, the Caribbean, Africa, as Black people, we did it with our community. And we are displaced and in America and adopting these ways of, you know, thinking. I have clients, well, I had this baby, she's my responsibility, or he's my responsibility. And I tell them, no, they're not. They're the community's responsibility because this baby is coming to bless all of us. Everyone in this family, everyone in your community is going to benefit by this soul being here in some way, right? So it's also our responsibility to take care of the mom, dad, birthing parent, non-birthing parent. It is our responsibility. And I really try and encourage my clients and their family members to participate. It's not enough to come to the baby shower and, you know, buy, yes, all of those things are cute, but honestly, you just need some onesies and some Pampers and some wipes. You really don't need all of that stuff in the beginning. You don't. You need food. You need some, who wants to think about cooking when you've had a medical procedure, right? When you've had what we call a C-section, it's a medical birth. That takes 6 weeks to heal. Who has time to, you're not supposed to be standing up and going upstairs, even if you have a vaginal birth. It still is a healing process, right? Culturally, women, birthing people stayed in the house for 3 months. In every other culture other than America, whether it's Black or brown, moms, grandmom, community aunties, they come, they cook, they clean, they take care, they bathe mom, they bathe the babies. I'm also a postpartum doula, so this is this is my jam, okay? Um, make soup. They make all the foods that's going to fortify. When we have postpartum depletion, and you know, people say, "Oh, my hair fell out." As part of it's not supposed to fall out. It's not like no. We say, "Oh, that's normal when you go through postpartum." No, it's not. It means you're depleted. It means you're not getting the nutrients and the vitamins you should have. It's not a thing that is supposed to happen. Right. And mine's did. It came out in clumps, but I wasn't eating properly. I was drinking coffee and trying to stay awake to take care of this baby. You know, it's not supposed to be like that. So yes, I think the number one underestimated aspect of parenting is the postpartum journey and how difficult it can be if we don't have supports.
I remember watching, to highlight that point, I remember watching an interview where the person she had children, and all she could think about after the birth was, I need to get back to work.
Yes.
Right. And this is something that was on her mind. And then eventually she was telling the story that she had her child, she was itching to get back to work. She had a child, she had another one, she was itching to get back to work. And then fast forward like 6, 7, 8 years where the children are nearing their teenage years, she turned around and she was like, I felt I don't like my children.
Mhm.
And I sat back and I was watching this and I was like, wow, imagine not liking something that you created or not liking someone for all those years, not because necessarily they did something to you, just their existence. Right. And then I began to wonder how many different emotions do the birthing and non-birthing parents go through. But from the mother's perspective, and I ask you, Tamara, what type of different emotions are they experiencing, and are some constructive and are some maybe not as constructive?
Well, you factor in, you have the hormonal crash, right? You have the baby blues. And so that's like a ride. Like you're up and down, you're happy, you're sad, you don't know what's going on, right? And that, you know, is about 5, 7, 2 weeks maybe. I feel like it's different for everyone. But past third, fourth week, you want to be mindful of if it's leveling out, right? And then if you are having difficulty with daily activities, just basic things. Now it's difficult to wash when you're a new parent, right? But that not even wanting to, that depression, right? You just feel like you're so heavy. You can't brush your teeth. You can't do basic things. You can maybe care for your baby, but you can't care for yourself, right? Either hyper or hypo, right? Either sleeping too much or you can't sleep at all. Um, Paying attention to fluctuations in appetite, right? Anger is something we don't talk about a lot. Rage, because a lot of people feel guilty and they don't share it, right? So that anger lashing out maybe at a partner or even the child crying, baby crying just really like sends like a chill up your spine, right? Those are some of the emotions that parents experience and feel silenced because they're scared to share that because I'm supposed to just automatically connect with this baby I've never ever met before in my life that you just plopped on my chest and it's like breastfeed. It doesn't happen like that. Yes, connection and attachment starts in preconception, right? When you're willing this child to you, however you are going about your growing your family, that process, connection happens then. But then also you have an idea of what that looks like, and then you actually have this baby, and it's not that idea, right? That's what it was for me. It's like she didn't look like what I thought she was going to look like. It just wasn't love at first sight, like people tell you, and then you question yourself and you have all these doubts. And it wasn't. I was just relieved she was there. But after that, I just wanted to check out, and I was like, I just want to go to sleep. Like now, y'all like making me nerves. It was just too much. It was overload. I was just so overly stimulated, right? And so it takes a while to bond. So I don't, and when I say bond, when I bond in that way that we think bonding happens, like all that, oh, I'm so in love with the baby. Bonding happens, you're feeding your baby. If you're giving your baby a bottle, you're bonding with your baby. If you're changing your baby, you're bonding with your baby. If you're sleeping with your co-sleeping, or if you're rubbing your baby's back, I really want to normalize and show the practical ways we bond with our children. And it's not a fairy tale. It's not what we see on TV. It's not what we see in the movies. Babies cry and they get on our nerves, and that's okay too. My daughter crying sent me over the edge. Like it was something about, and I was a teacher. My friends had babies when we were 16. I was taking care of babies and my dance teacher's babies when I was 14. Like I've been around kids my whole life, but it was something about my own child crying that it sent me into a tailspin. And it wasn't, she was colicky, and it wasn't until like by the fourth month, she just stopped and it was like, she smiled at me and I was like, oh my God, I'm in love with you. I honestly, I was doing the things, I was going through the motions of taking care of her, but I didn't like her. And I am really honest about that because when I'm honest about it, I have other people be like, oh my God, Tamara, I feel the same way. I'm like, yeah, it's okay. So did I answer your question?
You did, and you gave
Okay.
me so much more because the thing is, like, for me, I grew up in a situation where I didn't know my mother and my father early on. I was raised by my grandmother, like so many people that immigrate to Canada who have immigrant parents and so on and so
Right.
forth, right? Especially people that look like you and me. So when I was going through that experience, the love that I have, or the love that I was told that I should be having from my parents, I had from my grandparents. So when I look back now and I see some people who kind of feel a sense of shame that maybe they don't have the type of reaction or interaction with their parents or with their children that people tell them they should have, I wonder how many of them hold that in and then they pretend like things are okay. They pretend to be someone that maybe they don't, and then when the children get old enough, they go to see right through that. And
Yes.
that's the struggle that I have. Like when you share what you went through, when you share how you help your clients, and when you share that overall experience that it's okay to feel this way, how do you think then it impacts the mental health of, let's say, the mothers who are told they have to perform this way, they have to be this way, but in their everyday life, it's the opposite. And they're like, okay, does that mean I'm a bad parent? Am I doing it wrong? Like, what should I do? Like, how would you educate and maybe instruct them?
Yeah. I think how it affects their mental health is it gives them permission to be. and it validates. And then you don't have the pressure of pretending, and then you can actually process and work through these emotions. You can have feelings, and feelings pass, right? You can have thoughts, and those thoughts, you may not actualize them, right? So it's normal to have some of these thoughts. It doesn't mean you're going to feel like that forever. It means you feel like that right now. And let's talk about it. Let's process it. Let's who do you trust? Who can you share this with outside of me that can support you so that when you do have those moments, you can call someone and say, hey, listen, I'm having a moment. Can you come? Can you just stay on the phone with me? You know, I would just call my sister every day. Every day I would stay on the phone with her while I was having intrusive thoughts until it got better, right? So finding your person, and everyone doesn't have a person, and your person might be your therapist, you know? And so then maybe you do need those weekly sessions so that we can come up with some tools, you know, the grounding exercises, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Is this a fact or a feeling? Like I give them the tools that if they, you know, everyone doesn't have community. If you are at work, if you are at home, it's okay. You can put your baby down for a second as long as you can see them and they can see you. Maybe you need to just step away for a minute, collect yourself, put some water on your face, put your hand, like sometimes to bring you back into your body, you know, you do ice, something cold, right? Bringing you back. So we go through those techniques to help them move through it. And at some point, it will pass. And if it escalates, then we talk about maybe we need to move now into medication, right? If they're open to it. Everyone's not open to medication. So then we talk about, well, what are some things that you can do that can help mitigate some of these symptoms? If it's some of my clients, like they're like, no, I want to go the natural route. I'm like, that's fine. So natural route, we have to figure out what you can and cannot take if you are nursing, breastfeeding, chest feeding, acupuncture, yoga, sound baths, like what we explore everything. What are your cultural practices? What are your spiritual practices? Getting outside with nature, mind, body, spirit. How can we do something one day for all three, right? That can ground you and move toward wellness, right? Emotional and mental wellness. I wanted to go back to your point about the woman who said she didn't like her children. That's a real thing, right? Because if now you have to go to work to take care of your children that you, however they came to this earth, we don't know the circumstance, right? Resentment is real, you know, because I wouldn't have to work so hard if I didn't have y'all. And who knows what the situation is with a partner or not, you know, or maybe it's a choice parent. You chose to parent with yourself. It's real. A friend and I talked about that. So I had my daughter at 41, right? So I already had my career, all of those things that it's like, so I wasn't like, oh, I want to go to the club. I was out, child. I had a good time. Okay. I traveled, I partied, I lived in other countries. Like I had a good time. So it wasn't that. It was more so career though. It was, I'm moving into this space where I want to be in private practice, but I have this young baby. And it was like, I can't do the things that I want to do. And I see my peers on Instagram and they're speaking here and they're doing all of these things. And it's like, and one day a friend of mine, we both started our business. She started, well, I was in a group practice. I wasn't in my own practice yet, just a couple days a week. And she was like, yo, I just gotta tell you, I resent him. I said, girl, you're not alone. I was like, I do too. Because I finally found this thing that it's like, why did this have to happen to me? But I get it. It had to happen to me because this is my calling to help other people. And I finally get it. And now I want to do it. And I can't do it on the scale that I want to do it because I'm still nursing at 3 years old. It was just, it's real, you know, and it's okay. And it wasn't forever. And eventually we stopped nursing and she got older. And before I know it, here she's 10. And now I want to go back. You know, so yeah. And I think that, you know, as women and moms, we don't get to just It falls mostly on us, not always, but it mostly falls on us. And yeah, it can be very hard and difficult managing those emotions around it.
It can. Like if I look at, let's say, in general, like if there's a pregnancy loss, I think if you were to ask, let's say, 100 people, they would point the finger at the women,
Yeah.
right? If there's something that the child is missing, I think if you ask 100 people, they're going to point the finger mostly at the women, right? And then on top of that, so now women are conditioned to have this burden, right? They're like, oh my God, my child does this. If my child doesn't come to birth, if everything happens, it's on me, regardless of the situation with the father. But then when you have women saying that, I don't think I kind of, at the moment, I don't like this child. I love him, I love her, but I don't like them, right? People are going to look at automatically, you're a bad mother. So there's like this box that the women have to fit in to say that, okay, if I fit in this box, I'm decent. But if I'm Wonder Woman and Supergirl, then I gotta be great, right? You have to sacrifice yourself, you have to sacrifice your energy, you have to sacrifice your time. And I think sometimes women look at it and they say, okay, I could see why the birth rate is declining because they're probably like, you know what? I don't know if I am ready for this. Right? What are some of the obstacles that the women that you work with deal with to know if it's for them and if they're going through the process or if they already have children to make sure that the outside sounds don't impact their mental health?
Okay. I want to go back. You said, I don't, I don't like my child, right, in this moment. But let's think about it. Sometimes I don't like myself. Sometimes I get on my nerves. Sometimes I'll be like, your attitude sucks, right? So I don't always like my husband, and my husband doesn't always like me. Do you get what I'm saying? We love each other, but we get on each other's nerves. So it's like these expectations, we have to lower them, right? This kid is fed, they got some clothes on. I'm doing what I can do with the capacity that I have to do it in. Do you understand what I'm saying? After I got over that hurdle, my daughter and I are inseparable. But I would have never known that because in that moment, I couldn't see past that. But I had to go through what I went through to get to us being besties. We had to learn each other. We had to work our way towards. I had to work through me as a mom. I consider myself a mom, even though I had losses, but a mom of a living child. I don't know myself now. I'm trying to figure out who I am and figure out what this baby wants and be a wife. Do you get what I'm saying? So I think other people also need to release parents of the what you think they should be doing. If you try and live up to somebody else's expectations, it's a no win. You're losing, let alone trying to live up to your own expectations, right? Sacrifice of being a parent. I don't believe in sacrifice. I believe in compromise. I don't believe that you should damn near die to take care of anybody, your spouse, your parent, your child. When you think about sacrifice, right, a sacrificial lamb, you sacrifice this lamb and it bleeds out and it's dead. It's not living anymore. It has paid a price so that somebody else can live, right? You can eat off of it, whatever you do with the sacrifice after that, correct? So how am I supposed to now be anything to anybody if I'm sacrificing myself? I'm not going to, that's not sustainable. Now I can compromise on some things, right? And that's in any relationship. I can compromise and still thrive in a compromise, but I can't thrive in a sacrifice. So when I talk to women who are hesitant, as I was, to grow my family, because I did not always want to get married. I knew I wanted to have children. I didn't always want to get married. So we talk about, well, what do you think that means, right? What did you see growing up? And what about that has turned you off? What about that maybe is doable. What about that you can incorporate into your own life, right? And if your journey to parenthood is because I feel like I need to have a spouse, well, or a partner, because of why? Social constructs, cultural constructs, is it family member? Like we just explore all the avenues. And what do you want? What do you really want? And why are you not going for it because of something external? Right? And is it, just want to be a career woman. I really don't want that. That's fine too. But I believe everyone should, you should have what you want. You deserve, you were put on this earth to enjoy it as well. Life is hard enough, right? So what do you really want that's going to satisfy you, right? And so that's what we do. We explore it. And some we get to, I want to be a choice mom. I'm going to explore donor sperm, donor egg, or whatever that journey looks like. I have worked with men who also have explored being a choice parent and having a surrogate, right? And I just absolutely love assisting people with growing their families, um, however that looks, because I think every community family is important if that's what you know want. And family does not always look like blood and biological, right? A lot of us, if we could choose our family members, we would not have chosen them. Our friends are who we choose, and they are our choice family for a reason, right? So just, yeah, we just explore.
I remember I told my this is a funny story since you mentioned surrogate. I told my girlfriend, I was like, because she has a child and she doesn't want any more children. And I said, okay, what if I wanted one? She's like, no, straight out, no, right? Because she's remembering what she went through to your point, right? And she's like, I don't want to do that again. Then I was like, okay, what if I were to get a surrogate, right, for it? But in her mind, you know what she's thinking? You're gonna have sex with another woman to have a kid.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And it's interesting how like from like sort of people's perspective, when you try to compromise like that, especially when it comes to children, all they could think for a lot of people is that you're going to be sexual with someone
Yes.
else, right? Not thinking that, no, I'm just going to borrow this egg, right? Or the
Hmm.
sperm or whatever. So, how do you maybe help people to understand that it's not this person's trying to step out in a creative way? It's
Hmm.
that maybe this is something for them because maybe someone is unable to have children for whatever the reason,
Yeah.
or one person's opposed to it because maybe they don't want their body to change that way, but this
Hmm.
person wants it and they're trying to find a middle ground.
Yes. And that's exactly it. I find that the surrogate conversation for women is not um as sexual as it is for men who have to use donor sperm for their wife's egg. That conversation is the one that takes a little bit more time because even though they know that this is a procedure, the idea of just another man's body parts or I don't and so in their way is something that we have to like really process and work through. And it's just that, it's you have to just wrap your mind around, okay, this is where we are, right? What does that mean for me as a man? As women also who have to use donor egg wrestle with that too. What we've been taught, oh, if you can't, produce a biological child, like a woman's put on this earth to do that, to procreate, depending on what those religious ideologies are, cultural, all of that. And that's the question I asked them. Well, do you believe that? Or is that what someone said and you believe? Like, do you really believe that? And we have to start there about self-worth, what that means, value, how I say you're valuable whether you produce a child or not. That's not the only way you bring value to someone's life or the world, right? And so really starting there and then building our way up. And I have to say, I will say most of my clients that I've worked with who have started on this journey with trying, I don't like to say naturally, but people understand what that means. But trying, with their own egg and sperm, and then having to move to donor egg or sperm, like each step we have